Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of Not Controversial. I'm your host, Darwin Zalazar, and this is where we have the conversations that no one asked for but everyone wants to hear. Thank you for listening to this week's episode, episode 2, Choices Made, with School Board Member Abdulahi Abdalla.
Hey, how's it going, Darwin?
Doing great. So before we begin, I just want to note that all statements and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely my own and are offered in my individual capacity. Nothing should be construed as representing or reflecting the official views or positions of any organization which I am affiliated, including my role as a student representative on the school board, president of Latinos for Latinos, president of the Virginia School Board Student Representative Association, and or the columnist for Theogony's The Darwin Effect. With that out of the way, let's get into today's guest.
Excellent
Uh,
disclaimer. Excellent.
yeah. So, Mr. Abdallah, everyone, well, not everyone knows, but I know that you are a school board member representing which district?
District C.
District C?
Yep, that is the West End.
Great. Oh, that is the West End. Great. So, just can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to high school? Are you originally from Alexandria?
Yeah. So, no, I'm not originally from Alexandria. I was born in Arlington, Virginia. Grew up mainly in Fairfax County area. Um, kind of bounced around elementary schools. My parents moved around a lot when I was younger, so went to a lot of elementary schools, some in Arlington, some in Fairfax County. But most of my time I spent in the Annandale, Springfield area. I went to Holmes Middle School and then went to Annandale High School after that, class of 2016.
Oh,
So,
really? Annandale?
yes,
Oh,
sir.
wow.
Home of the Adams, you know?
Home of
Yep.
Home of the Adams. Yeah, we actually have a lot of people who this year who've come from Annandale.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
There's,
mean,
there's a whole running joke. They say, don't believe Adams because they make up everything. Some science stuff.
that's funny. I wonder if they still have it. So, so where did you go for your college?
Yeah, so after high school, wasn't really too sure on what educational path I should take. So I went to Northern Virginia Community College at first, ended up doing 2 years there, and then transferred to VCU after that.
VCU.
Go
Amazing.
Rams! Yeah, it was a great
Go
time.
Rams. Yeah. I did a campus tour and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with VCU. I'm actually considering it as one of my colleges. And I have a lot of friends there who are like, I love VCU. It's amazing. So what did anything in VCU shape who you are in public service today?
Oh yeah, 100%. The story actually gets deeper, but when I went to VCU, I originally was majoring in HPEX, is their health and exercise science program.
Oh.
I thought I was going to become a physical therapist or something like that. Realized that there was too many bones in the lower extremity. Decided to make a quick pivot after that. This kind of lined up around the same time during COVID, so it was like 2020. A lot of my friends and stuff were graduating. It was coming. It was around like the going into the spring semester, so I had a lot of time to reflect and everything, and realized I didn't want to go to PT school. It was expensive and too much time. So I decided to pivot and change my major to political science. Um, During that time, I also transferred to Marymount University in Arlington,
Oh.
where I was born. So full circle a little bit. Finished out my degree there in their political science major. After that, I immediately started working. I got my first job in refugee resettlement. Around the time I was graduating, the whole evacuation was happening in Afghanistan, so we saw a huge influx of Afghan refugees
Hmm.
coming into our region. So I immediately hopped in and started working at ECDC. It's a nonprofit in Arlington, the Ethiopian Community Development Council. That was huge. That formed a lot of my experience working in the community, mainly with refugees. That kind of kickstarted me getting involved more and more in the community. Um, so yeah, that kind of started my public service kind of thing. Graduating college, getting involved with the refugee community. Then that kind of led to a whole lot of things. But
Oh wow. I mean, you said there was a deeper story. Is that the deeper story that you started working with refugees?
yeah, I mean, I guess during the senior year of college, around COVID time, a lot of self reflection was happening, and it was 2020, so there was the election was happening during that time, and
Mm.
there was a lot of civic engagement from my community members. There was a Black Lives Matter protest going on, like literally every single weekend. I would see it going down Broad Street. You'll know what that is once you get to DC. People were protesting up and down Cary Street. So my interest kind of started to change more into civic engagement and kind of getting involved with the community, which led to me changing my major. I wasn't really sure at that time the decision I was making was going to lead to public office. If I'm being completely honest, I thought more of working in like international relations and IR,
wow.
and working with more of the international community is what I kind of envisioned myself doing. But working that first job out of college within the refugee resettlement, I started to kind of see the impact of our refugee community coming and resettling in our community here in Alexandria, as well as our neighboring jurisdictions, and the way that they, integrated into community. Some of the students started getting more involved with, clubs and sports within the schools. They started learning the language a lot faster than,
Yeah.
I really expected them. So that moment kind of, triggered me to get more involved. Funny enough, it was an election day at the polls. I think I went to the wrong polling station. I went to Ferdinand T. Day instead of John Adams.
Yeah.
And I ran into one of the precinct captains for the ADC, the Alexandria Democratic Committee. And I just asked, hey, I didn't know that you guys were out here. Is there a way I can get involved? Is there a meeting I can come to? And I showed up to one of their membership meetings back in, I don't know, this was like 2023, around, I think it was 2022, around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately just jumped in and got involved. I became a precinct captain for John Adams, where I lived. There wasn't a captain there, so I assumed that position. I was at every event, was just trying to find ways to get involved. I met city council members as well as school board members, and they were telling me ways to get more involved. I joined the community service board for the city of Alexandria, as well as the budget advisory committee. So I was pretty much just into the deep end
Oh, wow.
from the start. But yeah.
Wow, that's actually really interesting. I didn't know that about you. So I'm sure that working with a lot of refugees, you heard a lot of stories, and that still do you still carry it with you today, and that impact every time you're making it. It impacted you every time you're making a choice or a decision from the board. Um, do you have one in mind? Something you heard, a story that you heard that maybe you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of stories. To be honest, I worked in different fields within refugee resettlement. My first role was as a specialist for jobs that would help new arrivals find employment. I was one of the employment specialists at ACPS, so I would help them navigate, filling out job applications, building a resume or CV, and that really didn't lead to me getting to hear a lot of stories outside of frustrations of the job market.
Oh,
But yeah, I transitioned roles a year into my job to a legal aid coordinator, and that's when I started to hear a lot of stories. I would help a lot of Afghan refugees apply for their permanent residence, as well as some Afghans have a SIV, which is a special immigrant visa. Some
mm-hmm.
Afghans worked directly with the U.S. military, and they received a special SIV status, which would expedite their permanent residency. So I would hear a lot of stories of how they were coming from Afghanistan into the United States. Some of them kind of came separately, where the mother and children would come, and then the father would come later. I would hear about family reunifications, where family members were split and they were trying to reunify the families here in our area. I did hear a lot of stories, but if I'm being honest, I come from a refugee background. My parents immigrated here in around the 90s, 93.
Oh.
They're originally from Somalia. There was a civil war that broke out around that time. They immigrated here, similar story. Funny enough, ECDC, the organization I started working with, was the organization that actually helped resettle my parents when they came to the 90s. So
Oh, wow.
it was a bit of a full circle there again. So
Wow. It sounds like you've done a lot of service for your community.
yeah, it doesn't really feel like service, to be honest with you. It just feels like doing the right thing. So
Oh, perfect. That's amazing. I mean, well, doing all this, what moment was your moment of, oh, I have to run for school board, and why?
um, to be honest, I don't think it was a eureka moment or anything like
Uh-huh.
that. I think it was just progression as I started getting more and more involved and started doing more of a reflection to see if I could be somebody of use of service in that role. And I started to, see myself as a unique voice where the background that I come from and the lived experiences could be a unique perspective on the board. Fairly young, that's not surprising. That's not surprising. I am a first generation, American. My parents, immigrated here. We have a huge immigrant population in Alexandria first, English learning population, and all those struggles is something that I faced as I, grew up, and I thought that, a voice like that could be beneficial to the community. So it was more of just kind of speaking up for the people who aren't able to speak up for themselves, like my parents and the community that I came from. So it wasn't more of like oh, I think I should run. I think it was more of like, oh, I think it would be good for me to be the voice for the people who can't speak. So that's kind of the way it happened with working with refugee resettlement and getting more and more involved in the community, as well as, serving on the budget advisory committee that kind of, geared me to, start looking more into the school board and, how I can get more involved there. So
why school board and not city council?
Yeah, I can't. I am not really a public person. I guess that's kind of weird to say since I'm an elected official, but I'm not really a fan of that level of politics, if that makes sense. For me, I like to focus more on the grassroots level, the community that I basically came from. And yes, city council does do great things for our city here in Alexandria, and other levels of office, our state levels are all great people. I'm not saying they're not doing great, but for me personally, I feel like doing the work here that directly impacts students and teachers is more of a meaningful role for me, and I really don't see myself kind of getting involved in that political world of running in a primary, and all that good stuff. I'm not really a fan of all that. I'm just really here to do the good work and just focus on the students and teachers and kind of just
that's very inspirational to me as someone that wants to go into politics. One thing I've always heard is politics starts locally, and I think you're a prime example of that. You started locally. You started, and I see a lot of immigrants or first gens in this school who sometimes feel like they have to judge their whole government and this whole country based off what's going on at the federal government, or the federal level. And so I think to see leaders like local leaders like you showing up and being there and saying, I'm a first gen, but I can still love and service my community means a lot to me. And I think it will mean a lot to the listeners and the people who are going to listen to this episode. So, do you have anything to say to those people? Anything to say to the kids who might, see you and feel inspired as of right now?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, if I were to go back and tell my younger self, I was literally in high school 10 years ago. I was where you're sitting right now, 10 years ago, and go back to myself, that question, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Yeah.
Your senior year, I did not see myself in the position that I am today. If I'm being completely honest with you, I didn't even see myself going to college. I struggled in academics. I had an IEP. I had learning disabilities all the way throughout education, and to kind of see myself be in the position that I am, and when I see students in the same position that I was when I was younger, the one piece of advice that I would tell them is to dream bigger. If you feel like you're setting your goals at a high enough limit, I would say just set it higher. You're not really sure what you're capable of until you sometimes get yourself in an uncomfortable situation and you start to grow. So for any students or kids or anyone looking at me as an inspiration, just know that the same thing I did, you can do, and probably and most likely do even better and bigger. I have the absolute faith in all the youth now.
That's sweet, and I love how you're really trying to target the kids who are underserved and the communities who are underserved, because I feel like in Alexandria, I think many students might feel that way due to many different factors, not just certain things from, I don't know, certain things that go on in school, but everything that goes on in the community and at the national level. So I guess, what are your biggest three topics? What are the biggest three you're serving underserved communities. So what are the three biggest issues that you see that you're like, this is what I'm trying to tackle from the board?
And that's a great question. I mean, I was a first time politician or somebody running for office. So for me to kind of come up with issues that I didn't feel were like legitimate issues instead of just making up points on running, talking points on running for office, I thought it would be better to focus more on the engagement side and focused on empowering students as well as community members, teachers, and staff, being more accessible and visible and more relatable, kind of just coming out to sporting events, any PTA meetings that I can make my way out to, and just, being on the ground and speaking to the community firsthand is kind of what I focused on. And I think by taking that approach, it kind of allowed me to get a firsthand experience of what the issues that they face day to day, and they kind of give me a perspective on creative solutions that they may have, and ideas that aren't really being discussed on, during board meetings and stuff. And you kind of have these perspectives by going out and speaking to the community. So that's something that I kind of focused on when I was running for school board, and something I kind of want to continue and improve on is the community engagement aspect of it being more accessible. I always tell people, if you want to reach me, you can shoot me a text or give me a call. Emails are great, but if I reply back to your email and I say, hey, give me a call or a text anytime, I'm serious. I prefer that. I get a lot of emails, but I try to be as accessible to people and meet them where they're at. Whatever preference of communication you like, we can go grab coffee, FaceTime if people want to do that. I don't mind. But that's kind of the way that I approached it, by looking at improvements of communication and ways I can go out, where can I meet the parents, and just hear from them firsthand.
I love that. I mean, can I ask when you talk to these parents, maybe when you talk to students, these community members, what are the things that they're telling you as of right now? What are maybe the things that they see that maybe from a student perspective, we're like, well, we haven't thought of that, or maybe we have a different perspective.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, from a student perspective, when I talk to students, I kind of hear a whole bunch of things. Some of them talk about the food, some classes that they want offered, shortening the days and stuff like that. But, I take all of it seriously and, really do hear them. But one thing that I kind of brought to my attention this past year was the JP policy for the students. That was one thing I was hearing from them during the time. And even before I got sworn into office, I had a meeting with the Theogony group, and, they really gave me their perspective on the issue and the way that they thought it should be handled and stuff. And I thought by, listening to the students more and, getting their perspective, it would, before taking office, would kind of help me, kind of gauge the situation a little bit better. Luckily enough, when I got sworn into office, I was appointed to the governance committee. So, that policy was coming to me and my other board members on the governance committee as well. So, that was one of the first experiences I kind of had, being able to listen to the students from the Theogony as well as the other student publications, and hearing their perspective and what they would like to see. And that's kind of the way I like to approach it. Anything student facing, I'm here for. If students have an opinion that they want heard or expressed, I'm here to express it for you guys at the highest level possible. But yeah, that's kind of how I approach it.
Yeah, and I know Theogony loves you, and they're very grateful
Nice.
with everything. I told them I was doing. For everyone listening out there, I told Theogony I was doing this, and when I told them which school board member I was going to interview, they were like, "Oh my God, we love him. He's so cool." So I just want to say though, they're very grateful and they're very thankful. And you actually brought me into my next segment. I mean, how was that? How was figuring out what to give Theogony, what the problem was? What do you think was the problem on the school board then? Because from what I understand, the policy was just very badly written in the past, and it was time for a review. It's not,
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I came on to the governance committee and having those prior conversations with the Theogony, I kind of had a little bit of an idea what I was kind of getting into. And I don't necessarily think there was any, or I know, I don't think there was any malicious intent from school or who wrote the policy. The policy was a policy that was written a long time ago, and we have a 5-year review period, and something can be brought up sooner before the 5-year review if there's an issue with it. And with the Theogony, they had raised some concerns with the policy. It was a little bit vague, and they felt that there should be an update to the policy. So the origin of it wasn't necessarily like something crazy. There was no conspiracy or anything like that, nothing controversial. But it was just, time for the review. And when we were approaching the review, I kind of were keeping some of those ideas that the students had in the back of my mind a little bit. We had a very, very long process with that policy, very unusual compared to the other policies that we reviewed. And, we took the time to make sure we got it right. And from my perspective, I thought giving the students the most realistic experience in journalism, in photography, and any of the student publications is the most beneficial thing we can do that would prepare them for life after high school. So making sure that was the most realistic thing for all the student publications was my, number one priority. And I worked really close with my other colleagues on it, Mr. Beatty, Dr. Seansberg. They were really great. We had a lot of listening sessions with the students and the student publications as well as staff, and we really took the time to kind of hear their perspective on it and make sure that that was reflected in the policy. And I think it worked out really great, and I think everyone's happy with the result. And those are the types of collaborative efforts that I like to see, and and really makes me proud when we kind of come up with a finished product that everyone had hands in working with and we can all be proud of.
You're building bridges between your community, and I love it. I mean, for those of you that don't know, the 5-year process is that the Virginia Code basically says that school boards have to every 5 years have to update certain policies or look at them and revise them, and so that's what Mr. Abdalla was talking about. Now, just let everyone know that the new JP policy was voted on last school board meeting, which was last night, the 18th, Thursday the 18th, December 18th, and Theogony now has their new policy. So we congratulate Theogony for being pioneers.
Congratulations. And the rest of the student publications, that policy also impacts you guys too.
Yeah, and I read the policy, and I just want to say I'm extremely proud of it. I think that it was great, and I think that everyone had a voice in it, and that you can tell.
Yeah. That's the type of process that I like seeing, working together with our community and students, and make sure we come up with a nice final product. So really proud.
Perfect. So for those of you that don't know, I actually met Mr. Abdalla before he became a school board member. I actually met him during his campaign, when he was running, and I was actually secretary of the PTA and the volunteer coordinator for Ferdinand T. Day Elementary School.
Yep.
And so I would go have movie nights, teach chess to these kids. And one day I was getting on the elevator and I saw Mr. Abdalla, and I saw him carrying a box, and we just started talking, and he just seemed like such a chill guy. I told him about my love in politics, and he told me he was actually running for school board, and I saw him show up every day at those PTA events. He was there at the meetings, but ultimately you did run unopposed.
Correct. Yep.
So how did you balance talking to candidates who are like, well, you're the only talking to voters who said, well, you're the only option we have?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't have control over who decides to run it. It just so happened that we all ran uncontested. All 9 of us ran uncontested, and the way I was approaching it was the way, like, you saw me. I was just being consistent. I was also just delivering pizza for the PTA. Ali, the previous PTA president from Ferdinand T. Day, used to ask me to pick up the pizza from Costco because I live right next to FT Day. I walk there all the time. So, approaching it that way and just having these organic conversations and introducing people in a more familiar environment is the way I kind of started off, collecting signatures, going door knocking, also partnering up with other elected officials that were running for other offices like council members. We were doing joint canvassing together, going out and talking to voters and parents that lived on the West End, and getting their perspective. And during my time doing that, I didn't really feel that people were concerned about the whole uncontested thing. It seemed like people were really excited and happy that someone was going out there and running for school board and doing the good work, and that it motivated me to keep going. And it was a good process. I enjoyed it. It was the first time for me. had no idea that I needed signatures. I had no idea about campaign finance reports. I had no idea about, how to raise funds or anything like that.
Wow.
I learned all of that as I was, going through the process, and, had some great advice from members on council and former school board members and current school board members. Basically, it was a collective effort of people that kind of helped me get to where I am right now. And, I can't be more appreciative.
Oh, so there was a lot of cross endorsement going across the.
I don't know if you want to call it cross endorsement when you're running uncontested. I mean, it was mainly just, helping people knock on doors and be like, hey, you go ahead and throw my lit in there too. So, it was just more, scratch on like I scratch you. They weren't really endorsements and stuff,
Well, I love that. You guys helped each other out.
100%.
As everyone knows, I'm a huge politics geek, so I'm definitely excited to ask you these questions
Oh, yeah.
because we're getting into your campaign segment. So, was there anything about the process that surprised you?
Yes. The signature collecting part. I was collecting signatures, and when you ask people, hey, because you have to get running for school board, you have to get 150 signatures from registered voters that live in your district. So when you go out and ask people for their signature in places that it's not their home, so you don't know where they live, and you ask them, oh, do you live in the West End, by the way? They're like, oh yeah, I think I do. But they don't. They end up living somewhere by Polk, and they live in B, and you have a bunch of signatures that aren't from your district, and you find out maybe 2 weeks before they're due that, oh, you need more signatures. But no, it was a little bit of a learning curve, to be honest with you, and I couldn't imagine being a first-time person running for office, just jumping into a federal level seat or something like that. I just can't really wrap my head around, I'm not really knocking anyone who runs for office for the first time and, wants to run for a higher seat somewhere not less local. But for me, as somebody who's never been in politics, I was a recent grad of college, kind of getting into the workforce and learning the process of actually how to run for office and get on the ballot and, raise funds and have fundraising events and have literature and a website and, all that stuff wasn't something that I feel like I could do for the first time for a bigger seat,
Yeah.
That's why I'm more focused on the grassroots and, local level. And that's where I feel like the biggest impact is made. So, I was really happy and fortunate for the way my campaign went.
Yeah.
Hopefully next time we can have more of a competitive race. I encourage everyone to go out and, get involved. And if more members of the community want to run for school board, I'd love it. It gives people more of an option to choose the people that represents them. So, I'm all for it, but.
Hey, you're all for democracy. Yeah, I absolutely love that. I don't live in your district, but I was just about to say if I did live in your district, I would be running against you. No,
yeah, I love it, Darwin. I love it.
No, I love that.
Yes, excellent. That'd be great, Darwin. Come on, move to the West End. Let's do it.
Let's do this. Yeah. Well, now that you're in the role, how has the reality compared to what you expected while running? Did you get into the role and you're like, oh my God, everything I thought was totally different, or you're like, yeah, about what I thought?
So, I guess yes and no. Prior to being sworn in, obviously I've been to a bunch of school board meetings. I've seen how it went. The only thing that was a little bit of a mystery is, hey, why are they spending so much time back there? I'm just sitting here and closed. What's going on over there? But that's been demystified for me, obviously. But I expected, I guess, more of a immediate impact. I guess for me, I was kind of coming in there gung ho, I'm gonna get all this stuff done. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But the reality is, there's a process to everything, and things take time. And me thinking I can come in and get stuff done immediately was a little bit naive looking back at it now. But nothing really that caught me off guard. I was aware of the meeting schedules. I was I spoke with other members on the board at that time. Chair Reef, actually, I spent a lot of time with her and, spoke with her when I was running for office and everything. So, I felt like I was a little prepared, not a lot, just a tiny smidge prepared going into it, but definitely feel more comfortable a year being in it now.
Yeah, especially when someone like Dr. Reef is helping you out.
Oh
She's
yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
She's great.
I love Doctor. She's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so now that you are on the board as well, do you, and obviously just said you don't have to, there's not a lot of instant impact because everything has a process. Do you think it's the process sometimes takes too long, or you think that everything takes just about its right time? Is there something that you'd wish could change within those processes?
No, I mean, I guess we can take the the governance committee, for example, or the student JP policy, for example. You know, that process is something that I wasn't aware of. You know, the review process, the revision process, staff having, edits to the documents and then getting sent back to the board for review. And, these continuous rounds of review wasn't something that I was aware of prior to being sworn in. But that's, things that you kind of learn, that there are processes of things getting approved. And, we have 10-year CIPs, and we have things that are planned out for for a large portion of time and everything. So, those, things were those, processes and stuff that need to get done was something that, was a cold splash of water when I got sworn in. But, I should have honestly knew better.
Yeah, yeah, you do have CIPs. You do have those
Yep.
processes.
Yep.
So going back to the community, now that you're on the board, do you see still a supportive community? For example, when you were running UK, you mentioned that you saw a lot of people who were like, "Wow, I'm happy the school board members running. I'm happy this." Now, or do you see more of the backlash? Do you see, or do you still um how do I say this? Do you feel like the view of your district changed a little bit with now that you are on the board, now that you have, now that your voice is serious, now that your votes actually mean something. Um, how has your engagement with the community been? Has it changed?
I don't think it's changed, to be honest. If anything, I think it's just gotten stronger.
Hmm.
Um, I haven't felt any um, ill will or anything from the community. I think everyone's pretty supportive. Yes, everyone is, passionate about certain issues that are happening within their community, and they take it very seriously. And sometimes, other members or other people can view it as, them being, you know, aggressive or hostile, whatever it may be. But to me, I view it more as a passionate parent or community member coming out and voicing their concerns that are very important to them and their community, and they just want to feel heard. At the end of the day, they want us.
Hmm.
They want to know that we hear them and we acknowledge them, and that's kind of been my, my method. Just going out and making sure that our community members are heard, and they know that there's somebody listening. And sometimes they're passionate and they can come off as
Yeah.
very passionate about their topic, but I don't really view it as a bad thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. When something is really important to you, it's good to get passionate about it. It's good to get other people passionate about it, and bring attention to it, because that's the only way that things will get solved, is if you are persistent about it. And I welcome it, and I don't really have an issue with it. I think it's a critical part of our community to go out and continue to be voicing their concerns and making sure that their elected officials are held, accountable, and that they know what they were elected to do, to hear the people and make sure that they're heard.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Social media is definitely passionate about, yeah, about the things they about. The community is definitely passionate on social
Yeah,
media.
I'm not on social media.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not. If you go on my Instagram and check, it's dry. My Facebook is dry. I'm not a big social media person, which is kind of weird, because I grew up within the social
Uh-huh.
media boom when I was in high school. Like, Snapchat was a huge thing. Twitter was popping off. Now it's X.
You mean X?
Yeah,
Yeah.
X. I'm gonna still call it Twitter. And, Facebook was my first social media that I had. I remember that was like in middle school, but I'm not really a big social media person, so I don't really pay attention to what's going on online. That's why I like to just have more of a direct connection, with our community members, and be more visible and accessible. So you don't have to tweet at me. You
Yeah.
just text me,
Yep.
just call me.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Look, so you mentioned that you had, struggles as a student. Um, Do you still see a lot of students struggling with the same things you struggled in?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of my issues kind of probably stem from home life,
Hmm.
academic, just a whole host of things, just combine into one. I did have disciplinary issues, and my academics weren't that great. But what did kind of pivot me, honestly, is the support of certain communities. I started wrestling when I was a sophomore in high
Oh.
school. And prior to that, I used to play basketball and everything. Bad decisions didn't end up being on the team. Story for another day. But I ended up wrestling my sophomore year, and wrestling is hard.
Uh-huh.
It's not easy. And for a student like me, with honestly not that much discipline at that time, to go into wrestling was something that I really needed. And looking back at it now, it was more of the support from my wrestling teammates and my coach. We're going into practice every day. We need to cut weight. We're going through, you know, we're
Mm.
going through terrible times in practice together. So, those things bring us closer, and you form a community within wrestling. It's, your teammates are holding you accountable if you don't make weight. They're making sure that your grades and, reports are in so you can wrestle in our meets. And, that really kind of like, changed things for me. And I think looking at ways we can find mentors and, more opportunities for students to develop these types of communities within their school is something that can, benefit students that had, similar struggles that I had when I was younger. But um, I still do think, there are a different form of challenges that they face today. Technology has been
Oh
advancing.
yeah.
You guys went through the whole COVID thing while you
Oh
were in
yeah.
school. That was pretty wild. I dealt with I don't even know what I dealt with 2016. It was nothing that crazy. Yeah, you guys got me beat for sure. Um, but I still think that with um, opportunities to have students come together in outside school activities, whether that be sports, clubs, or activities held by the school, would give them opportunities to kind of form these communities outside of school environment hours, of learning. And they can bring it into school the next day and kind of feel excited to see some of those friends that they saw outside of school.
Absolutely.
So
Look, in a community that's based around a lot of sports and clubs and engagement, I think that you're absolutely right. I think that kids finding a community here at Alexandria State High School, that's why I love it. And I've told everyone, if you, Dayanira, my best friend and secretary of communications is here, as well as Eliut, our great photographer, and I've told all of them, I love Alexandria State High School because it's so big and there's a place for everyone.
yeah,
There really is. And that actually there's a place for everyone because but with a very big place and a very big school, there are a lot of expectations that students are encouraged to meet
oh yeah,
from not just their parents or the school, but from the community as a whole, from the state and from the federal government.
100%.
And that's why I mentioned in my report last night that I wish that students should always try to be the best version of themselves they can be, but also, based on the expectations they set for themselves, someone they can be proud of. So, what is one thing students are doing right that deserves more credit, in your personal opinion?
That's a good question. I mean, one thing is kind of hard to narrow down. I mean, it's probably a whole host of things. I think students today have grown comfortable with being more engaged and civically involved. I see more students coming out and voicing their opinions and getting more involved, and just the interest of students I've seen change and grow over the past 5 years is been tremendous. And I think that moving forward, we're probably going to start to see that growth start to pick up a little bit more. And I just couldn't feel more proud of the way our students in whole, from elementary, middle, and high
Mm-hmm.
school, that they're kind of stepping out of their comfort zones and pursuing things that they wouldn't do in the past. And in our school district as well, ACPS does help promote certain things like that. For example, we have a whole new middle school sports program,
Oh
and
yeah.
I went to a football game and I seen these kids
Mm-hmm.
going wild. I saw them do a spider to wide banana. I was like, whoa. kind of fallback or something's going on. But, seeing these students get more comfortable and, get out of their comfort zone in certain activities and make new friends is what I've, really been proud of the most. There's a whole lot of things that, I'm proud of that our students are doing, but, that, stepping out of their comfort zone, standing up for what they believe in and being more visible and more engaged in the community, I think is number one in my opinion.
I love that. Now we're gonna go on to a lot of student topics that I was given from a lot of students in our school. So let's start with the biggest ones: phones and AI. Your opinion? Did you agree with the phone ban? Did you actually? I don't know if it was you or the last school board that voted for it. Okay, that was the last school board that voted. Okay, it was the last school board that voted for it. So no one come after Mr. Abdalla for the phone. So, do you agree with the phone policy? And how do you feel about AI regulation or AI as a whole?
So I mean, I don't.
By the way, before you start, I just want to let you know Eliut and Dayanira are listening, and they're very interested in this topic.
Oh yeah, they're locked in right now. They're definitely listening. I think that the intention of the whole phone ban was to have students have less screen time while in the school environment while they're learning, and in practice I do think that is a good thing, and I think it will benefit our students, especially the younger ones, that don't have that self-control of putting their phone away and not getting distracted. Some students that have learning disabilities like I did when I was younger that can't stay off their phone and have that distraction constantly, I think is useful and a good practice for them. But if I were just to take myself out of this, the Abdulahi, that's 28 school board member, and just go back in time, obviously I would hate it. I think it's bad. When I was in school, the iPhone 5S just came out. It had the fingerprints. You guys, they don't understand what I'm talking about. They have Face ID now. I had the fingerprint scanner. So it's not that small. It was
a small phone. I had it.
It was small relative to today's phone, but back then it was huge.
Oh yeah.
It was like, dang, this is a big. So I understand. When I was younger, I definitely wouldn't want people taking my phone. I had headphones on back then. We had the Apple headphones. We didn't even put it in our ear back then. We used to loop it around the top of our ear, and they used to just dangle outside our ear. I don't know. It was weird. We just had weird ideas. But
you're a millennial, right?
I was born in '97, so is
that's millennial? Okay, you're close at the cutoff. No, that's Gen Z.
Right? Come on, I'm younger.
That's Gen Z.
Am I your generation?
Oh yeah, you are our generation.
Same generation.
Oh, wow.
We're in the same generation.
Well, you barely made it.
I barely made it for sure. Barely made it. Yeah. Or you guys barely made it. It's either or way you look at it. But I can see it from both perspectives. But at the end of the day, I think the point of coming to school is to get educated and make sure that you're learning. And the phone does provide a distraction. Phones are changing completely. I had 1 gigabyte of data when I was in high school. That would be gone within 2 weeks because that bus ride, I'm listening to music. But now you guys got unlimited data. It's just you got Apple Watches now. It's just the technology is advancing. Same thing with AI. I think honestly AI is a useful tool when it comes to creative aspect things. When you're making things like using it as a way of managing ideas or in a creative way of coming up with a cool model or something like that. But what I've seen in the youth is that they use AI as like a brain. Like they ask AI, hey, what should I eat for breakfast or something like that? Or, they kind of just overuse AI, or the over-reliance on AI from a younger generation, I think isn't probably the best thing for, critical thinking and their development in that. I think it can be a useful tool the way it's implemented, but I just feel like, the over-reliance on AI at a young age without developing like your critical thinking is going to have a negative impact on your development as you get older. But if you start to use AI as you get, older, once you're out of school and all that stuff, and you want to use AI for creative things like managing your schedule or coming up with like a meal plan or a workout plan, or, telling them of, certain things that I think AI is smart with, and more of like a search aspect instead of using Google. I think you can use AI as a search engine that narrows down certain things, and there are useful, use cases for it,
Yeah.
But, the way I think it's being used today within the youth as like a, replacement to their brain. They're just asking AI for everything. And I'm like, yo, you got a computer, so you can use that. What's wrong with you?
We're getting nods from the people in the room. So that was a great question.
Excellent,
that was a great answer.
Excellent.
And I hope that my fellow peers and colleagues actually, agree with that. I think you're great. I agree with you. I agree
we're all
with
part
you.
of the same generation.
Yeah, we're all part of the same generation. And I don't know what at school uses AI, right? It's against our student code of conduct. Well, great. Now we're gonna get into the fun session, the fun questions. Now, one student who gave me permission to name him, Josue, Internet_Explorer 2231 is asking you, milk or cereal first? The important question.
I'm gonna be a normal person and say cereal first.
Okay, good. You're a normal school board member.
Yep.
Sorry about
cereal first.
Yeah,
Whoever puts milk in first.
Dayanira.
Yeah, number one, you love milk way too much. You might as well just have a glass of milk because you're overpouring that milk.
Yep.
And yeah, there's not enough cereal.
Yeah, Will, my producer, are you a milk person?
No, I'm not.
Okay, he said he's not. Okay, great. Yes. Okay, everyone, cereal first and then milk.
Yeah.
Other things I've heard throughout the day. Your favorite school lunch?
Okay. I mean, I guess there was. I don't know. I mean, I went to FCPS, and then I went to Arlington Public Schools when I was younger. So maybe I can compare those two. I don't know. What do you guys have for school lunch?
Chicken sandwiches, pizza.
You guys still have those triangle quesadillas with that taco sauce? That's not a thing no more? You guys still have taco sauce?
No.
No taco sauce.
No taco. We have hot sauce.
Hot sauce?
Yeah.
No, we used to have taco sauce.
No, we have Chinese food sometimes.
Chinese food?
Yeah, like egg rolls and rice.
Nah.
You need to come during lunch one time. We're gonna have to bring you a lunch. We're gonna bring him to the spicy chicken sandwich, everyone.
You guys are elevated. Nah. We didn't have that. I had man, there was like this. It was like a triangle quesadilla that was like shaped like a pizza. It was like a cheese quesadilla. It used to be fire back when I was in school. I used to get this taco sauce, lather it up on there. I'm telling you, I used to crush 2 of them and hop in the snack line and get 2 Otis Spunkmeyer cookies.
No, for real.
OGs remember what that is. Otis Spunkmeyer cookies. Those used to hit back in the day. Yeah.
Oh my god. My favorite is okay, so we have Doritos that they opened up the Doritos. They put the rice in a ground beef.
It's called taco in the bag.
Yeah, the taco in the bag. I love those.
All about taco in the bag.
I love those.
See, let me tell you something about that. When I was at school, I think it was like middle school time. There was like a change within like the Obama administration. It was like healthy food. You remember those posters?
Yeah.
You got milk posters?
Yeah. Yeah.
The milk mustache, like,
with the famous athletes and everything. Yeah.
Michael Phelps was on there.
Yeah, everyone was on there.
Milk mustache and stuff. I even saw Megan Trainor. I thought, Megan Trainor, milk mustache. And then I think there was a change with our school snacks. We went from like Pop-Tarts and Doritos and Otis Spunkmeyer cookies. I'm gonna still talk about that today. Otis Spunkmeyer cookies to these like low-fat baked stuff, Propel in the vending machines, and I just was devastated as a 7th grader that I couldn't get an Otis Spunkmeyer cookie during lunch, and I had to get a low-fat 20% redux fat, something like, I don't know what it was.
Michelle Obama, what did you do?
Yeah. I don't know. I love all of them. They're great, but they got rid of my cookies when I was in 7th grade, and I'll never forget them.
I was actually in kindergarten.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. The cookie that came in the plastic bags.
No,
not the plastic bags, but the little thin bags that people would pop.
I think you might have been too young for it, but they used to have it freshly baked. Man.
I feel like I remember what he's talking about. I was in kindergarten, and I feel like there were cookies. You know what I'm talking about?
You know what they used to be freshly baked, and then they used to put it on this tray in the front of the register by like when you used to check out with your lunch.
I vaguely remember that.
It was a big deal for me. It was 50 cents back then too, and then they increased it to 75 cents when I got to high school. See, I used to be a big boy, so I remember all these prices and stuff like that.
I like the cocoa brownie. You guys know what I'm talking about? The cocoa brownies, the chocolate ones. Okay, they sell these cocoa brownies. They're really delicious. They're chocolate. Obviously, they're healthy, but they're delicious. They're
healthy.
Delicious. They're delicious. Okay. Another question. Favorite and least favorite subject growing up.
Ooh.
Are you a math guy?
No, I was terrible at math. Oh. Yeah, math was definitely my least favorite subject, 100%. My favorite subject, honestly, probably like history, U.S. Gov, civic class. because it used to change every year. We had like civic freshman year, then U.S. Gov, and then world history or something like that, and anthropology. Something, the history courses is what I was probably the most.
Social
The
sciences.
social sciences, yeah, is what I was probably the most interested in. Math, missed me with that. But yeah, I used to enjoy the electives too. I took like a home ec.
Oh, really?
Did auto tech 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh, have you gone to see our auto tech people at the?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I did. Yes, it looks like a whole Jiffy Lube in the
Yeah.
garage. Get my oil change done or something. But now
They
we
actually
have
do that. They
Yeah.
actually do that.
For real?
Yeah, for a free, like low reduced cost.
a low. Y'all gonna mess my stuff up. That's why, right? That's why it's low reduced. Y'all get a discount ahead of time.
Yeah.
But, hey, you gotta mess your stuff up.
Yeah.
But we gave you a discount already.
Yeah, but the money you didn't waste on that, you're gonna waste on your car.
Exactly.
Okay. Testing anxiety, real or overblown?
Oh, 100% real.
Okay.
100% real. I would study hours. I'm talking about overnight. Even when I was in college, study for finals. And for some strange reason, the moment I get into class and sit down and ready to take the exam, it's like someone just wiped my memory.
Hmm.
I'm like, what? What happened? I don't remember anything. But I think there are, ways you can overcome that. And I think I kind of struggled at it first, especially at Nova, going from high school, going into community college. Professors don't care if you don't show up to class, and you can walk out and go to the bathroom whenever you want. You don't got to ask. So that was a little bit probably on me, lack of preparation a little bit. I could probably went to more classes and, studied more, emailed my professor when I had questions and stuff like that. So I started doing more and more of that, going to office hours. I did more and more of that anxiety of testing kind of went away because I kind of already knew what was going to be on the test because, I was coming to class, going to office hours and studying. So I think just the preparation is what it was.
I love that. Now we're heading into the end. I just want to say that as a student rep, obviously I'm not in my capacity right now. I'm a podcaster.
Yes.
But in my student rep, I just want to say I appreciate all your help. I know what you do on the board. I hear the great achievements you guys make, especially the governance committee. Thank you to Miss Ashley Bird Simpson and Ashley Simpson Bird,
Yes.
and thank you to Mr. Tim Beauty.
Yes.
And just want to say thank you for explaining things to me when I'm up there, and I appreciate it. And thank you for coming here today and for your commitment to our community and to our students. Is there anything you want to say as your closing statement?
Yeah. Thank you, Darwin. I appreciate you, inviting me out here and, doing this podcast. Really great. One piece of advice I would give to any student watching this, I might have said it earlier, but if you feel like you have set a goal high enough, just try to set it higher because you'd be surprised on the things you can accomplish once you get your goal. So just keep shooting for the stars, aim for the moon, and you'll land somewhere in between the clouds. So keep going, guys.
Oh, thank you. Well, this has been Not Controversial with Darwin Zalazar. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.